What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be going over how to put a sports steering wheel into a base package 335D, 328, whatever you have. We're going to be focusing on this 335D. If you guys have been in my channel before, this car's been on the channel quite a bit. We've done a lot of work to this. We're upgrading to a sports steering wheel today. This car has the base steering wheel. It obviously already has some carbon fiber trim pieces on it, but we're going to be upgrading to a sports steering wheel. The main reason why this person wants to upgrade to the sports steering wheel is because with the sports steering wheel, you get the paddle shifters. This steering wheel has been redone. It obviously has got some perforated leather on the sides, some Alcantara on the top, and it also has the M stitching on the side. I will put a link in the description to the part number for the sports steering wheel, as well as to the company that redid this steering wheel. You're also going to need to get a sport airbag for your steering wheel. I will put a link in the description to that part number as well. I'm just going to be going over how to get your factory airbag or your base airbag out, how to get your steering wheel out. We're going to get our new steering wheel put in, bolted up, plugged in, and then we'll get our new airbag popped in and get everything hooked up. So let's get to it. All right, so the first step of doing this airbag is going to be disconnecting your battery. You're going to want to come around to the trunk of your car. You're going to remove this panel on the passenger side rear corner of the trunk. It has this little twist lock here. That twist locks into place. I'll just kind of show you guys how it works on the other side. And then it twist locks into this piece right here. Once you do that, you're going to have access to your battery. Easiest way to take your battery off is just to unhook it at the negative cable. 10mm nut there, loosen it, pull your negative battery cable off. I'm going to get this unhooked and then we're going to go inside the car. All right, so got our battery cable unhooked. We're back inside the car. We're going to work on getting this airbag out. I want to show you guys the slot that you're going to be using is right here. You see this little dimple on the underside of the steering wheel? On both sides, you're going to have a slot. There's one there. And then on the other side, it is right here. Inside that slot is a spring that you have to pop over towards the side. So you're actually going to be popping it towards the middle of the airbag in order to get or towards the middle of the steering wheel, sorry, to get the airbag out. I'm going to use a T20 T-handle that I have. You can use a T20 screwdriver or anything that's thin. It has to be relatively thin. T25 T-handle or screwdriver is too big. It's gonna. That's why I'm using this T20 to get up inside here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna insert this tool or your tool, whatever you're using, from the bottom up into here, and then when you get up in there, you're gonna feel some spring tension. You're actually gonna hit like a stop inside of the airbag, and when you hit that stop inside the airbag, you push towards the center of the steering wheel and it'll pop the spring clip over and pop the airbag out. So I'm going to get this airbag out and then I'm going to show you where this tool goes inside the steering wheel and what you're going to be trying to feel for. All right, so we got our airbag out and I wanted to be able to show you guys how this is actually, this locking mechanism works. Once you get the airbag popped loose, there's one last plug connection up here in the corner. It has a traditional style tab that you push down from the top and then pull the connector out. So I could show you guys now with the airbag out what you're doing with your tool when you're trying to remove the airbag. If you come up through here, through the holes in the bottom, when you put your tool up in, you got to kind of keep it towards the back of the steering wheel itself. It's going to go back up in, it's going to hit a stop. See here, you can hear it hitting that stop. You're going to hear it hit that stop, and then you're going to take your tool and pry it towards the middle of the car. When you do that, you are releasing that little bar back there from the airbag itself, and it works the same way on both sides. And hit the stop, pry it in towards the middle, and then it's going to pop the airbag out. And the thing that you're popping it off of is actually these two pins here on the airbag. This pin here and this pin here is what's holding the airbag in place. When you pry that little rod over, it's popping it, allowing it to go past these two little pins here and allowing the airbag to come out. So now that we've got our airbag out, plug connection off, and airbag set off to the side, we're going to proceed with removing the steering wheel. You have one last plug connection up here that's got to come out. Pull that plug connection out, and then we have a 16mm bolt here holding the steering wheel on. This steering wheel does not have anything else holding it on other than the bolt. Some other cars, the steering wheel is actually pressed onto the end of the steering column and requires a tool. BMWs, luckily, do not. you just take the 16mm bolt out and pull the steering wheel off. So I'm going to get this steering wheel pulled off, and we're going to get our new steering wheel put on. I'm going to show you guys how to plug everything up. All right, so we got our new steering wheel put in, 16mm bolt put back in. One thing I did want to point out is this car actually has a factory heated steering wheel. If you have a factory heated steering wheel, your wire plug connection is actually over on this side for the steering wheel. You're gonna have to pull it out, and then it actually feeds through the hole in the steering wheel. It doesn't actually come with it. This steering wheel is not heated, so obviously we're not gonna have that option, but we're gonna have this kind of laying off to the side, just out of the way, so it's not in the way of any of the stuff for the airbag working. Once you put your steering wheel on and get your bolt tightened down, you're going to want to put your plug connection back for your steering wheel controls. That'll include your shift paddles. And then your new airbag connection is a little different from the old airbag connection. This is actually a separate wiring harness, whereas the base airbag, the wiring harness is actually attached to the airbag itself and does not come off. I will put a link in the description for the part number for this wiring harness as well, because you have to purchase that if you're going to the sports steering wheel. So you're going to plug your plug connection in here to your clock spring here, and then these two plug connections here go on the back of your new airbag. In order to go on the back of your new airbag, these little locking tabs on the back here have to pop up in order to allow these connections to go into the back of the airbag. So I'm going to get these popped up because it kind of requires two hands, and then I'll show you what they look like popped up, and then I'll show you how to plug them into your new airbag. All right, so this connector, you see how this little bridge across the back of it is popped up like that? There's like a gap there, and that one there's not. That plug connection is locked in place and plugged into the airbag. You have to pop that little bridge up in order to get the connector in place into the airbag and then to lock in place. So you're going to, once your bridge is popped up, you're going to take your airbag connector, you're going to press it into the airbag itself. And then once it's seated down all the way, like that, you're going to press your little tab down, and then your two airbag connectors are locked in place. And these airbags are super simple to put back in. Once you've done that, you take this, you put it into the steering wheel, and you push your airbag into place. Make sure that it's locked into those two locking tabs. I'm going to try to pull on it a little bit, make sure that it's in there. Make sure that it's free, has some free movement, because it's actually your horn activation as well. And we are done with this job. All right, so we got our new steering wheel installed, airbags all pressed in. We're not gonna be able to do the paddle shifters right now because it actually requires an adapter harness. I should have told you guys that in the beginning of the video, I apologize. The adapter harness that we need is actually on back order right now. So we're not gonna have paddle shifters working right now, but you obviously get the little bit thicker steering wheel, a little bit different design. I will do a video in the future once we get the wiring harness in to do the paddle shifters so that they work. But other than that, this is an explanation on how to install a sports steering wheel in a non-sport car. If you guys have any questions about this job or anything else on this vehicle, please comment down below. I'll be sure to answer your questions. I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later. All right, well, I thought that was the end of the video. 2 days later, the wiring harness that we need showed up. This is actually the wiring harness that we're needing to make the paddle shifters work. This is, I believe, from Burger Motorsports is where this was purchased from. I said previously that this was on back order. I guess he must have ordered it just before it went on back order, and it was just kind of waiting to come in type thing. So we have our wiring harness. I'm gonna go over how to take it apart. I'm not gonna do super detailed instructions on doing this wiring harness. There's actually a very good write-up on Burger Motorsports website. I'm actually gonna follow the Burger Motorsports website's write-up, but I will give you guys kind of a visual representation of installing this wiring harness. So let's get to it. All right, so in order to install this wiring harness, you're gonna have to take a couple things apart inside your car. Obviously, if you're following the Burger Motorsports guide on how to do this, you'll see the pictures that they have. I'm just gonna explain it to you. You're gonna have to take this trim off the steering column. It's actually split down the middle here, and it comes apart, or comes together from either side of the steering column, so it pops off. I don't know if it was really designed to come off with the steering wheel on, but you can take it off with the steering wheel on. If you have the ability to wait to do your steering wheel until your wiring harness comes in, I recommend doing that. It just makes it easier to get this trim off and deal with what you've got to deal with in here. We're gonna take this steering trim off with the steering wheel on because I don't feel like having to take everything back apart. You're gonna get something sharp, it's like a pocket screwdriver, not sharp, just thin tipped at the end so that you can get it between these two pieces of trim here. Whether it be a pocket screwdriver or some kind of trim tool, whether you're using a metal one or a plastic one, just so you can get in between these two pieces of trim. So you're gonna pop in between these pieces of trim and pop them apart. And then once you get this piece off, the top piece, in the back here, there's these little tabs that hold the fabric in place. There's like leather fabric on the back of this trim, and these little tabs hold that fabric in place. And you're gonna want to pinch the tabs together with something, whether it be a pair of pliers. A lot of times I can do it with the pocket screwdriver that I use to pull the trim apart. Sometimes that doesn't work out, but obviously I'm just using a pair of small needle nose pliers here to get this off. And then you can get this trim out of your way. So those tabs go through these holes here at the back, and there's just 4 tabs here, and they have like little pinch closures on them. So you're gonna take this trim, you're gonna get it out of your way, throw it in your passenger floorboard, and then the bottom trim along the top here on either side, there's like a little tab that comes over and like catches onto the steering column itself. You're gonna pull that tab off to the side and push down on this trim, and it'll push down and off as well. On the driver's side of the steering column, your lever for your steering wheel adjustment, if you have a manual column, you're gonna have to push that down and get it out of your way in order to get this trim out. And then this trim, no different than the top one. If you have a heated steering wheel button, you're gonna have to pull that plug connection for that out. And then you can also take this trim and get it out of your way and set it off to the side. Lock your steering wheel back in place. And then next step as far as trim removal is you're gonna have to remove everything here in this center console. This trim here through the middle. That's relatively easy as well. You can use the picture on Burger Motorsports website in order to get reference for where you're supposed to pry at, but in the back of the center, or in the front half of the center console where the lid locks down, there's a hole where that lid locks down into, and you can take a screwdriver. They show a bigger one, the pocket screwdriver works as well. You put it in that hole and press up on it, or pry up on it, and it will pry the trim here up. And then this trim all the way around is just popped into place. Pop it up, pop it out of your way. Now, the other thing that I'm gonna tell you that you're gonna have to do is get your shifter off. In order to get your shifter off, you're literally just going to pull up on it. This one actually wasn't held in very well. A lot of times there's a lot of tension holding this on, and you're gonna have to pull up really, really hard, a lot harder than you feel like you should have to, but just pull on it. It will pull off. It has like a locking detent built into the knob that's supposed to hold it in place. So we're gonna set that off to the side as well. And then once you get that set off to the side, you can get this trim out completely after you unplug everything underneath it. Make your life a little bit easier. You can actually take this piece out first. That off to the side as well, and then take this piece of trim and set it out of your way. Then we're going to get into doing this wiring harness. So I'm going to figure out which plug connections here I need to get to, and then I'm going to show you guys which plug connections you're unplugging, and then we're going to run our cable over here to our center console area. All right, so we got the wiring ran. I just want to explain to you guys real quick. I'm not going to show you just because it's not, I just can't show you. It's too hard to show you what I did in order to get it through there. You're gonna have to take the trim panel up underneath the dash here that you would like is above your feet when they're on the floorboard down. You don't have to take it out. There's 3 T20 Torx across the front of it that hold it to the bottom half of the dash. Once you take those Torx out, it'll drop down. You're gonna feed your wire through the bottom, like underneath the edge of the center console here on the driver's side, and up underneath this plastic air duct here. What I did is I took a flat blade screwdriver and stuck it through from this side out that way, and then was able to reach up underneath the edge of the dash here with my fingers and feel where the end of that flat blade screwdriver was, and then just kind of push the wiring harness back through as I pulled the screwdriver through. I didn't use anything to pull it through just because I didn't want to risk pulling too hard on the wiring, just because it's very thin wiring. But I pushed the screwdriver through and I reached my hand up underneath there, and as the screwdriver was going back, I pushed the wiring harness along with the screwdriver, and the screwdriver kind of cleared a path between the air duct and the carpeting for this wiring harness and all that stuff to go through. And then once I was able to get it pushed through far enough over here, I was able to grab a hold of it and pull it the rest of the way through. And then you're going to run it up over here to the underside of your dash. So your green connectors on your adapter harness are going to go towards your shifter in the center console, and the black wiring harness is going to go towards your steering column. So at the shifter here, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to undo the blue connector to the side of the shifter assembly. There's only one blue connector over there, and then you're going to piggyback this green connector in place of the wires that were there. So one of them is going to plug in. They're male and female, you can't screw it up. You're going to plug your connector in on either side. Goes in that way. Plug that side in. Put this back in place. And then you're going to plug the other side in. Alright, and then the wiring harness is installed on that side. Now we're going to get our center console put back in, but we're done over here with everything. So now that we're done over here with everything, make sure that your wiring harness here is tucked out of the way and won't get hit with your center console trim as you're going back in. But we're done over here. Now on this side, what you're going to do is the black plug connection that's on the bottom of your clock spring, you're going to take off, and then on the bottom, on the connector itself on the side near the top, there's like a locking tab here. You're going to pry that locking tab over and then slide the wiring out of the end housing. Alright, so on this plug connection, this is your plug connection that goes into the back of your clock spring, the black one. Obviously, if you're following the Burger Motorsports instructions, I recommend it. They have very good pictures. This black connector, when it's locked in place, there's a locking tab on top of it. This is going to be in the back of your clock spring like this. You have to push down this little locking tab here and slide and push this gray like cam lock connection towards the left when it's towards the driver's side when it's plugged in. And when you do that, it'll actually pull the plug connection out. You're going to pull it out, and then on the back side of it, or the underside of it, there's a locking tab right here. See where this hole is where I'm putting this pocket screwdriver? This locking tab has to be pried away from the connector itself and then slid off. And then what that'll do is it'll leave you with just the base like plastic housing where the pins are clipped into. And then once you do that, you're going to take your adapter harness, and then when you're putting it in, you have to make sure that the arrow on it is pointing the same direction as the arrow on this one. So you don't want to flip it over the other way, because then things won't work properly. Make sure that your arrow on this part, and I'll actually show you if you can see it right here, this arrow, you have to make sure that it's facing the same direction as the arrow on this connector. They're the same kind of connector. So you're just going to push these pins together like this, lock that together, and then you are going to take your black connector and put your other end of this adapter harness back into your black connector, and make sure that the arrow on this connector is facing towards the inside of the connector. So like the arrow is going to be going in the direction that you're sliding this connector, or this piece into this locking part. So you're going to slide this back together, and when it goes back together all the way, you will hear it lock into place, or feel it, you hear it, clicks into place, and that is locking the plug connection, the part where all the pins are mounted to, into this little cam lock style connector. And then once you do that, you're going to take this connector and plug it back into the back of your clock spring. Once you push it in there, you're going to pull your cam lock over and pull it over until it snaps into place on the lock on the top, and then you're done with this job. Then all you got left to do is to put your trim on the steering column and your trim on the center console back. So I'm going to get everything put back together, and then I'm going to show you guys you know, that this is operational and working. All right, I also wanted to show you guys that you have the ability to check to make sure that you did everything properly before putting everything back together. I obviously put all this back together, but what you can do is you can take your shifter trim here and put it back in place and plug your 2 plug connections into it. Put your shifter back in so you have your access to your button to shift it into gear, and then you can start your car. And then in your instrument cluster, you're going to put this into drive. Okay, and you're going to get your drive button, and then you're going to push your shift paddle, and if everything's working properly, you will get a switch over to M1, and then when you pull on the shift paddle, it actually shifts through gears. So that indicates that we did everything properly. Both sides are working the way they're supposed to, and we can be done with this job. All right, so as you can see, pretty straightforward install of everything. Nothing's too hard to do. Just remember, when you're dealing with your steering wheel airbag, to unplug your battery, just so you don't accidentally set off your airbag, kill yourself. Trust me, I've seen some guys set them off, not while in front of them, but had them sitting out of the dash and stuff like that, and be like in the floorboard messing with things and set them off, and it hits the windshield. It's just not, trust me, they're dangerous. Unplug your battery when doing airbag stuff. Wiring harness was relatively easy. The hardest part of that whole entire job was running the wiring up through the center console. Like I said, screwdriver push through, just kind of give you an area to guide the connector through. You guys have any questions about the steering wheel install and or the wiring harness install, please be sure to comment down below. I'll answer any questions you guys have. I'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later.